Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm McKelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 36 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 35 of A Game of Thrones, that's Eddard 9.
As always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, indulge in a little pedantry, and we'll cover some reader mail this time. Be sure to check out the show notes. They provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note about this chapter. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing over there?
Oh, fine, fine. Did you see my photo today? I put the trash out last night and I wore a suit and tie for it.
Did you? Where would I see this photo?
It's actually on the Teams room at work. You know, the divisional Teams room.
Okay.
I put it there.
I'll go check it out. Well, you gotta find reasons to get dressed up, you know.
Exactly.
Any
exciting news from you?
I think maybe I'm not handling this as well as I thought I was handling this.
What's wrong?
Well, so just this past Sunday, I spent an hour watching the girls 7 to 9 division drive, chip, and putt competition, like as if it were the Masters. I was like, fist pumping. You got this, girl. So I might be longing for sports more than I realize.
My tennis friend, he was telling me that he's playing FIFA soccer and he got Liverpool to the Champions League semi-finals, and I begged him to live stream so that I could watch. It sounded so thrilling. Well, I hope everyone's safe and well, and please keep social distancing, because it's the only way we can do anything tangible to help.
Right, exactly. So, shall we do this thing?
Let's do it. Get down to business with a quick recap of what Eddard was up to last time we saw him. Eddard had a heated disagreement with King Robert about whether to have the remaining Targaryens killed, particularly now Dany is pregnant. It resulted in Ned resigning as Hand of the King. He planned to leave for Winterfell immediately and stop at Dragonstone on the way to visit Stannis. However, a subsequent conversation with Petyr, Littlefinger, Baelish, where Petyr offered to take Ned to the brothel that Jon Arryn and Stannis had been visiting prior to Jon Arryn's death, seems to have stayed his departure. Why don't we give them the summary?
Let's do that. So Ned, Petyr, Littlefinger, Baelish, Jory Cassell, and 2 other Stark men, Will and Heward, are leaving a King's Landing brothel. Presumably, it's the one that Littlefinger promised to take Ned to earlier.
Let's hope so.
On the way back... We're just going to stop off here on our way to the real brothel. On the way back to the Tower of the Hand, Ned reminisces about a conversation he had with his sister Lyanna regarding the likelihood of Robert's monogamy, or lack thereof, in their impending nuptials. He then thinks of the woman he just met in the brothel. She has a newborn baby girl who is the spitting image of King Robert.
Ned and Littlefinger talk about Robert's other bastards, some confirmed, some rumoured. As Ned ruminates over why Jon Arryn should be so fixated on Robert's baseborn children, the street is suddenly flooded with Lannister men, swords drawn, blocking their way. From behind them rides Jaime Lannister.
Jaime says he's looking for his brother Tyrion, who's run into some trouble on the road. Ned responds that Tyrion was taken on his command to answer for his crimes. Jaime draws his sword and says that he'll butcher Ned. Jaime then tells Littlefinger, who has been attempting to defuse the situation, that he'd leave quickly if he were him. Littlefinger does, and tells Ned he'll be back with the gold cloaks. Ned, surrounded and outnumbered 20-4, says if Jaime kills him, Cat will surely kill Tyrion.
Jaime says he doubts that, but he's not willing to bet Tyrion's life on it. Instead, he tells his men to make sure no harm comes to Ned. However, as Jaime's leaving, he orders the Lannister men to kill Ned's men. Skirmish ensues, ending with Ned's men dead, and Ned with a severely injured leg. Petyr and the Gold Cloaks arrive after the fact and transport a half-conscious Ned back to the Red Keep.
Simon is doing shock and surprise and awe animations.
Specifically, I was doing the guy from Airplane, One of the ground control guys who used to like overreact to things. Do you remember him?
Yeah. Oh, Airplane. That's a good movie.
In my mind, that's who I was doing.
Now that you mention it, I can clearly see that that's what you were doing.
Thank you.
So there's not a great deal of content. I think it's only like 6 pages or so, but obviously the ramifications of the actions in this chapter are quite huge.
Yeah. Just going back to Airplane, my favourite line that guy said was he was handed like a weather report or something on a piece of paper, and the guy said, "What do you make of this?" And he said, "Well, I can make a hat."
Yeah, I love that part. Oh, crap.
Yeah, so you were saying it's the first true shot of the war fired.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first intentional death caused in this skirmish. I mean, I know.
True.
I know you're gonna say that if you were a Lannister, you would say Cat had fired the first shot, and you'd be right to make that claim.
If I were a Stark, I would say that Jaime fired the first shot when he pushed Bran out of the way.
Right.
But of course, nobody knows that yet.
All the way back.
Or actually, maybe when they killed Jon Arryn, or whoever it was that killed Jon Arryn.
Right. It just keeps going back and back. But Cat clearly... I really wanted to say catalyst, but I couldn't bring myself to say Cat was the catalyst.
Catalyst Stark.
Cat initiated things by basically arresting and taking Tyrion as her captive.
I'm sitting on the bed and the bed creaks, so we'll probably pick up some of that.
Yeah, I like the new. I like the new recording studio. I can see there.
It's not quieter than the rest of the house. It's more out of the way of the rest of the house, so they can actually live their lives while I'm recording.
Right.
They've been getting kind of annoyed with me being sort of center of the house and recording.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say actually is I think it's actually quite a nice piece of writing that this comes to a head just as Ned quits being Hand of the King.
Yep.
Because as being Hand of the King, he would be protected from all this, and any confrontation with Jaime Lannister would probably have been like much more formal and less violent.
Right.
Much more, hey, dude.
Less blood and swords.
Yeah, exactly. But you see, everything has happened in a sort of logical progression to this point.
Yeah,
and has led to this opportunity. So I think it's well plotted to get us to this.
Right.
These straits. But anyway, rewinding to the start of the chapter, Ned finally found the brothel he's been looking for, and just as other aspects of the Jon Arryn investigation, it seems to circulate around Robert Baratheon's baseborn children.
Right. So once again, we end at a Robert Baratheon baseborn child. Now this child again looks just like Robert, except that she is a girl. And nothing like her mother, who they describe as light red hair and a freckly, pale complexion. And that also is like the other baseborn children that we know of Robert Baratheon's. We know Gendry's mom had yellow hair, and this mom has light red hair. So no, we don't know what Maya's mom looked like, but.
No, but we do know that Maya looked like him as well.
Yes.
She's another one who
Ned mentions when he's touching this little baby that the hair reminds him of Maya's hair. So the baby's named Barra, which is not very veiled effort to.
Yeah, I had never thought of it.
Yeah,
I really hadn't thought of that.
Baratheon.
Yeah.
And she's clearly blindly in love with Robert. Ned actually mentions that she's so young that he was afraid to ask her age. So she's young, and he says she's clearly a virgin and just a sweet.
Or was until she met the king.
Yes. So she's fully hoping that King Robert's going to come back for her. And
I'm thinking that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. I have a hunch.
So that's pretty sad.
Yeah. So the interaction with Barra's mom, who they never name, so I guess we just keep calling her Barra's mom. but that sets off a string of memories for Ned. And he's feeling really guilty because he's afraid he filled her with hope because he made some promises to her. He promised her he'd tell King Robert how beautiful Barra is, and he promised her that Barra would never want for anything.
I think he can keep those promises. I think the first one's pointless.
Right.
But
yes.
But then again, what we heard about his being a parent to Maya, he doted on her.
Yes.
He liked to go spend time with her.
Right.
So in actual fact, it's not totally pointless. It's quite possible that he might go, "Oh, I'm going to go see that baby.
Right.
I remember that baby's mom.
Yeah.
I'll go see her too."
But the conversation, leads him down a road to remember a much earlier conversation he had with his sister Lyanna, and he mentions that, but he thinks back to her saying, Robert will never keep to one bed, and that she knew he had already fathered a baby in the Vale, which is Maya's stone, and Ned's not going to lie to his sister. I don't know that it's in Ned to lie to anyone, really, but certainly not his sister. So what he does tell her is that Robert's behavior before the betrothal is not indicative to his behavior after they're married.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for us to, from our position, 15 years down the road, to look back and think, wow, Lyanna was right, you really couldn't. Right. But then again, Ned is right. At the time, his behavior to that point was the behavior of a young single man.
Right.
He clearly was in love with Lyanna.
Yep.
He clearly has never been in love with Cersei.
Yep.
So he might have turned into a very different person had he met
Lyanna.
Lyanna.
Absolutely, yeah.
And been entirely monogamous.
He refers to Lyanna, who refers to Robert as a good, true man who'd love her with all his heart. You can't say for certain that wouldn't happen.
But, yeah.
He's certainly a different man now.
Certainly, the man we know, we can't imagine it of him. But the man we imagine he used to be, it can be imagined of.
Right. And one thing, so Lyanna also follows that up with something like, love can't change what's in a man's heart, or something along those lines. And it struck me that she didn't seem too optimistic about this.
Yeah, it's interesting because he doesn't really reflect on Lyanna's sort of demeanor in that conversation. There's a couple of ways to see it. One is sort of like kind of world weary, like, oh God, what's he like? He's going to be such a pain, sort of like, happy that she's marrying a rogue kind of thing. The other way to look at it is kind of the opposite. I'm a little bit unhappy that the man I'm going to marry is going to turn out to be someone who's not faithful to me.
Right.
But we'll never know, I guess.
Yeah.
She died before she could tell us. If we could only go back, that's what we'd ask.
Yes, that's right. That's the one question we'd
ask. All
that
other stuff, you don't know.
So then he's reminded of the promises that he made Lyanna as she lay dying. And this goes back to, we got our first reference of this in the first Ned chapter when Ned and Robert were in the Crypt of Winterfell. And I actually had planned on reading the passage to everyone, but I left my book 2 floors above me. So you just have to trust me.
Yeah, it's kind of professionalism you don't get on ordinary podcasts.
That's right. You want to hear the passage, you got to sign up for the Patreon. But it was basically that she was dying, and she made him promise some things, and when he promised, then she got a peaceful look on her face and died peacefully. And he references in this chapter the hardships that he's had in keeping those promises. So we don't know what they are. They've come up a few times. They came up in the Barrowlands when he and Robert were off riding by themselves. He had a quick thought of her pleading with him, and also when Sansa was pleading for Lady, it snapped into his head the memory of Lyanna pleading to him. So we've gotten a few.
This is a difficult thing for us to talk about because, of course, we know what those promises were, but they're so consequential, so important to the story that we
Right.
can't really breathe a word of what we know. It's just the only thing I think we can tell our listeners is to, keep an eye out for these references, because, they are central to the whole. I mean, never mind your Jon Arryn mystery. That is like a tip of an iceberg.
Right.
The real thing is, what did Lyanna Stark get Ned to promise her?
Although, I will say, what we think we know came from the TV show. And as we know, the TV show and the book can diverge greatly at times. So,
But I
wrong.
knew how that was going to pan out before I saw the TV show, because I'd read things online. And I know that...
okay.
I know that... What I heard that Benioff and Weiss, the guys who created the TV show, when they approached George Martin about doing it, the question he asked them was exactly this. He said, "What did Lyanna Stark tell Ned Stark?" And they gave they gave him the right answer, and therefore he said, "All right, we can make a TV show."
Okay, cool. I think I've heard that before. Possibly, maybe you've told me that. I don't know.
Maybe from me. I've probably said it before.
Only thing I will say is that so far, all the instances that have come up about Lyanna pleading have in some way been about or when he was with Robert. Now that could just be coincidental, or that could mean something. But there's been 4 instances now, and all of them have in some way involved Robert. It could be the fact that he and Robert were fighting a war at the time when Lyanna died, so when he thinks about Robert, or thinks about Lyanna, either way, the two are associated with one another.
Yeah, and she was betrothed to him, so...
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess every time you think about what a mess Robert's life is, you would think about the sliding doors moment of he could have been married to Lyanna, and then life could have been very different for everybody.
Yes, possibly have a happy marriage, and a happy wife makes a happy life, we all know, so... So Ned's reminiscing while riding back to the Red Keep from the brothel in the company of Littlefinger, and it's raining. I think unusually for King's Landing. I don't think of King's Landing as being particularly rainy, but again, I could be influenced by the TV show there. Oh,
yeah, it was filmed in sunny places, so it always seemed to be sunny,
Yeah, I never really thought about it one way or the other.
But in the rain, he sees Jon Snow's face.
There is one gate called the Mud Gate, so...
There is. But that could be down by the river, right?
Right, yes.
You know what? As I said that, I thought, he's going to mention the Mud Gate. I did.
You left yourself open. If I didn't say it, someone else was going to say it.
Yeah.
We get an email.
So he thinks about Jon Snow because he's thinking about base-born children, and he wonders why... When bastards are so frowned upon and so, outcast within society, God fills men with the lust. The gods fill men with lusts that lead to them.
Yes, it's the gods' fault.
Yeah, that's right. It's not men. Poor men. We're the victims here.
That's right.
So he talks with Littlefinger about Robert's bastards, and Littlefinger starts counting through them. There's Edric Storm at Storm's End, who we already know about, who that's the mother of Edric Storm was a member of the Florent family, yeah?
The mother of Edric Storm was Selyse Florent's niece. Stannis' niece-in-law.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's actually kind of... I don't think we've ever mentioned how Edric Storm came to be about before. It's kind of a Robert-like story.
I think biological process, I think most of us have down.
Yeah, well, I'm going to skip that part. So Rob, it's mentioned in the chapter. If you're reading along with us, you already know this, but for those who aren't reading along with us, so Robert was at Stannis and Selyse Florent's wedding, and he took this girl whose name I'm drawing a blank on. Do you remember her name? I can't.
Florence.
Florence Florent.
I don't know.
He took this girl up to the marital bed, the wedding bed, and broke it in while Stannis and Lady Selyse were dancing. And that was actually the part that I found most surprising, is that Stannis was dancing.
Yes, that really struck me as well as like, what are you talking about?
that might end up in pedantry.
No, I mean it was his wedding. I could believe that he would dance at his wedding. Just the thought of it, though. The guy makes Ned Stark look like the life and soul.
Right. So this girl's from a fairly well-respected family, the Florence, and she's a virgin, and so he had really no choice but to, accept Edric as his son, which he doesn't seem to have a problem doing. But Stannis thought it was too much of a blight on his wife's honor, so when the baby was born, he had little Edric sent to Storm's End to be raised by Renly.
Who sent him to
Stannis?
Was that Stannis or
yeah? Because the girl was a bedmaid of Lady Selyse.
I see. So yeah, the Florence must be a fairly notable family. I mean, they married the brother of the king.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty high up.
Yeah. Right.
It's not going to be a third tier family, is it?
And Lady Selyse is not exactly known for her striking good looks. She's mostly known for her hairy upper lip.
But she was played by a very nice British actress in the show, whose name momentarily escapes me.
A lot of names are escaping us today.
Yeah, it's me. I call that a Tuesday. So yeah, and then the second story that Littlefinger tells is of a story of twins being born to a serving girl at Casterly Rock.
Right.
When Robert was there, 9 months after Robert was there for a tournament.
Right. Roughly about 3 years ago.
Rumor then goes that Cersei had the babies put to death, which, if it wasn't Cersei, you wouldn't believe it, but it is Cersei, so there is a temptation to see it as possible.
Yeah, and then he actually wonders that. He said, I could believe it of Cersei enough, but would the king allow that to happen? And then he thinks, not the king, not the Robert that I knew, but the Robert that he knew wasn't so practiced at not seeing things that he didn't want to see. So,
let's be honest. I mean, she could do that without him ever knowing.
Yeah, that's true.
He's probably forgotten that he slept with the girl. He probably never knew about the twins. Easy to make them disappear.
Yeah. All that is very, very possible.
Yeah, it's not really a practice of not seeing. It's a practice of not being aware of things.
Right.
So Ned asks Littlefinger why Jon Arryn took the sudden interest in Robert's bastards, and this is one of the most interesting parts of this chapter for me.
Yeah? I found it interesting that he is so perplexed that he thought to ask Littlefinger, not exactly someone he respects a whole lot. So,
I think he knows things.
Yeah, it's true. So far, Littlefinger has been leading him down the path of discovery pretty much the whole way. So
right, and here's another example. But what's interesting about this one is that he found the brothel and he found the individual in the brothel that Jon Arryn met with, but Littlefinger himself doesn't know what Jon Arryn was up to.
Yeah, not that we know of,
because he has got no insight here at all. When Ned asks him, he's like, well, yeah, he was the hand of the king. Maybe Robert asked him to look that they were provided for. That's clearly not the secret.
Yeah, he knew that as well.
I mean, that's possibly true, but that's clearly not the secret Jon Arryn died for. Yeah. But this is what I'm saying. He has no insight. I mean, normally I think of Littlefinger as, look, he knew where to find this prostitute, in which brothel, which prostitute, and that she had because there was nothing we knew that they were looking for a Robert bastard, but there was nothing. It's not like someone said, we need to find a brothel where a prostitute has had a baby that looks like the king. Littlefinger was able to do that without knowing the secret.
He seems to know Chataya, I think that's her name, the owner of this brothel, so maybe, he asked around if there's any reason why the king might be attached to a brothel. Or he could just not be giving Ned an answer that he knows.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose. But the way the conversation has a ring of truth to it.
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't feel like he's holding back on anything. He says, well, maybe he's just seeing that they're taken care of, and he laughs about how many there are, and
yeah.
He says, he's definitely got more than you.
Right. We know that because we can do the math. We've got 4 already.
Yeah. It just feels like, it's just surprising to me that Littlefinger wants to be involved in this story without knowing the answer.
Right.
I mean, I can imagine he's desperate to know the answer because he knows this is a big secret.
Yeah, and there's nothing he likes more than information to hold over people. Probably.
Exactly. But he's not getting anything from this. I mean, he's letting Ned do the talking, and Ned's not giving him any insights.
Right. Yeah. Ned certainly doesn't seem to be picking up whatever Jon Arryn was putting down.
Yeah.
So then he said something that I found a little bit puzzling. He said he thinks of Rhaegar Targaryen for the first time in years. And first of all, I thought, I'm pretty sure just the last time we saw Ned, he was thinking of Rhaegar Targaryen when he was wondering if Robert could ever develop the hatred for him that he had for Rhaegar Targaryen.
Well, that's true. Although I think literally he was talking about. No, you're right. It was after the fact. He was thinking about it, again, wasn't he?
He was. He was sure that Robert would get over it, and then he was like, "Oh, will he? He's always hated Rhaegar Targaryen for 15 years." So,
but I guess he would argue he was thinking about Robert there.
Yeah.
Here he's literally thinking about Rhaegar. Yeah.
But then he's thinking about Rhaegar Targaryen. He wonders if Rhaegar Targaryen was a frequenter of brothels, and he thought he probably was not. And I wonder if that's him thinking, is Rhaegar the better man here? Has Robert become so low in his eyes that the man who kidnapped his sister is the more upstanding citizen?
And that's what I was going to say. I mean, Rhaegar died young and in battle, and was well liked before he died.
Yep.
But he did, when married, he did give the flowers at the tournament at Harrenhal.
Yes.
Where was the tournament? Harrenhal?
It was Harrenhal, yes.
To Lyanna Stark, and then kidnapped her.
Right.
Not that upstanding.
That's true. That is true.
A little bit Targaryen, if you ask me.
That's a good point. That was probably not exactly smiled upon by Elia Martell.
Right. Yeah. Robert would probably, if you voiced this opinion to Robert, he would probably say, well, of course he didn't bother visiting brothels. He kidnapped whoever he wanted.
That's right.
At least I went to where I had to pay for it. So everything takes a turn at this point. The street is suddenly full of Lannister men, both in front and behind.
Yeah, things escalated quickly here.
Yeah. It's definitely a trap of some sort.
Yeah. And I think
immediately one would suspect Littlefinger.
I think you and I might have differing opinions on Littlefinger's involvement. We sometimes share the same sheet of notes, and sometimes we have debates inside our sheet. I'll have comments written, and Simon will have counter comments written to my comments. So you don't think he could be involved? You don't think he was the whistleblower in this situation? The tip?
No, I mean, all right. First of all, we're of the opinion, or at least everyone says, that there's plenty of spies in King's Landing.
Sure seems that way. Yeah.
Jaime's whereabouts Ned's whereabouts were well known.
They could
to
be.
Whoever wanted to pay attention. If you paid attention, you'd know where he was. And having seen where he went, you know that he would head home from there. And you could plan his route, and you could cut him off.
Yeah. But
if they caught him on the way out, I would be more suspicious.
Before he got to the brothel, you're saying, out of the castle.
But on the way back, a spy reports back, hey, he's gone into that brothel. You set a trap on the road back from the brothel. The prosecution rests.
Here's my argument for why it's possible that Littlefinger could have been the one to tip off the Lannisters. he's really not done anything to cause Ned to mistrust him. Aside from when he told Ned, mistrusting me was the smartest thing you've done since you got off your
There
horse.
was the kind of hitting on his wife a little bit as well.
Yes, there's that. But also the dagger thing. We can't say for certain that he's lying about Tyrion having won that dagger off of him. But we don't necessarily believe that that's what happened. And if that's the case, then he seems to be intentionally trying to pit the Lannisters against the Starks.
Well, that's a good point. Yes, I'll grant you that.
And in this case, I mean, you're really pitting the two against one another here.
But for me, the clincher, the reason that he's innocent of this accusation is his reaction on seeing the Lannisters. He's like, whoa, what's this about? And he runs off to get the city guard.
Yes. However, we don't know how long he was gone. He could have been saying, whoa. And then, they say the action said he put his heels into the horse and took off down the road. But he could have gotten around the bend and, then stopped at the nearest pub, had a pint of mead, and then meandered his way over to the Gold Cloaks. Because Ned passes out. We don't know how long Ned's out for.
Everything you say is true. I'm just basing it on if in both instances here, both the conversation in which he seems to not know what the secret is, and his reaction to seeing the Lannisters, he is really convincing. In very few words, he's very convincing. He says exactly what you would say if you were taken by surprise by this situation.
I agree.
But maybe he's good at acting.
Yes. That's what I'm wondering. Is he seems like someone who would be clever enough to pull off shock when he's not entirely shocked about it. He might not have known when the trap was going to be sprung, but I'm not necessarily sure he was surprised that it happened. He could be.
Yeah.
This is just conjecture.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
So, Littlefinger says to the head of the leader of this group of Lannister men, he says,
That's right, because Jaime doesn't arrive at the start. Yeah,
Jaime is back behind the line there. He says, "This is the hand of the king. What are you doing?" And then, a voice emerges from the background saying, "He's no longer the hand of the king. In fact, I'm not sure what he is now." And then Jaime Lannister makes his grand entrance. And that's when the whole decision to relinquish the handship kind of backfires on Ned. Because like you said at the very beginning of this episode, if he hadn't have relinquished his handship, he could just walk right through this, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, Jaime might be sufficiently mad about Tyrion that he would still do this anyway, but
possibly
you've got to imagine that this has changed the calculus.
Yes, the power balances have swung a bit.
Yeah. So Ned, of course, knows why Jaime's accosting him before Jaime even says anything, but Jaime does accuse, but Ned takes the heat and says that Tyrion was taken on his orders to pay for his crimes.
Right. Once again, Ned is paying the price for someone else's decisions. And, in this case, I'm referring to Kat's rush to judgment. I'm not saying Tyrion's definitely innocent. I'm saying she's the one that made the rush judgment that he was absolutely guilty and took him at sword point. And Ned has to answer for it here.
You're always equivocal about that, but I'm absolutely saying that he's innocent. Because I know for a fact he's innocent of the pushing him out of the tower.
Yes. And I honestly believe he is innocent too. I don't want to, I don't want to entirely...
The thing that seals it for me is the fact he went back to Winterfell.
Right.
And did a kindness to Bran.
Yeah. And another thing that he did, an action that leads me to believe he's innocent, is when he saved Cat. If he was guilty of trying to kill Cat's son, you would think he would have let those mountain clansmen take her off or kill her or whatever they were going to do. Anyway,
Tyrion is innocent.
I agree. But you should make your own opinions.
Yeah, but if you think Tyrion did it, you're wrong.
But yes, but still make your own opinion. Wrong one if you must. So when Ned says this, tells Jaime that Tyrion was taken on his orders, that seems to really trigger Jaime, because Jaime pulls out his sword and says, "I'll butcher you like Ares if I must, but I'd sooner you die with a blade in hand," and waves his sword around. And remember, what he's referring to by butcher you like Ares is he's called the Kingslayer for a reason. Remember, he's the member of the Kingsguard who killed his own king during the sack of King's Landing.
Do you remember those 9 episodes when we were always referring to the Kingslayer, yes, not who it was, because we didn't know? It's Jaime.
We are nothing if not doing our best to prevent spoilers.
Yeah. Jaime tells Littlefinger that he should leave if he doesn't want to get blood on his clothes. Littlefinger says he's going to bring the gold cloaks.
Yep. Then
goes off to the pub for a pint of meat.
I'm just saying, it's possible. We don't know what he did when he rounded that corner.
According to going to McKelly, I've got it in for Littlefinger, Ray.
Yeah. So Ned's outnumbered. He's able to do some quick math and realize he's outnumbered about 20-4.
Yes, I think 20-4. Now that Littlefinger's scarred, it's 20-4.
You notice Littlefinger got out of there pretty quick. He didn't say, "No, I'm staying with my buddy here."
Yeah, I don't think that's evidence one way or the other as to his involvement. I think he would scarf her anyway.
Right. He was preferring life.
But Ned then does say the right thing. He says, "If you kill me, Catelyn will kill Tyrion."
Yep.
And Jaime puts away his sword.
No, yes, after poking Ned in the chest with it a few times. Then he puts it away. Yeah.
I've forgotten that.
And
it's funny because what happens is I always read the chapter and then watch the show. And then I always get influenced by watching the show as to what happened in the chapter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As I have not seen the show in probably, since last summer, I am quickly forgetting the details of the show. And so I don't have that issue at all.
Yeah. Well, when we get to comparison with TV show, you'll hear there was no poking in the chest.
All right. So yeah, this is when Jaime says, I'm not willing to risk Tyrion's life on my bet that the cat's not going to kill him if I kill you. So he says to his head of guards, whose name is Trigar, I think, something like that, that no harm is to come to Lord Stark. And he starts to ride away, and then he gets a kind of a smile on his face and says, "But we don't want him to leave here too unchastened, so kill his men."
Yep.
Then he rides off.
So, leaves them to it. Yes.
Yes.
So the question is, was Jaime's plan to kill Ned? Did Ned's argument sway him?
Right. Did he just show up to confront Ned originally and then kind of lost his temper a little bit and decided really might duel him right there in the street, or was it always just a threat?
Yeah, you see, I gotta think that Jaime. It's hard to know how smart Jaime is because he's not the smartest Lannister,
right?
But he can't be that dumb, and I think he would have probably thought through the possibilities before engaging in this.
You would think.
And he would have already. Ned didn't have to say it, is what I'm saying. I think he would have said, "I'm going to go out and kill Ned Stark." Oh, hang on. If I kill Ned Stark, then that's bad news for Tyrion. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to terrorize Ned Stark and perhaps kill some of his men and then tell him he better cough up Tyrion or things are going to get worse.
Yeah.
I think that was always his plan.
Yeah.
So the whole unsheathing his sword and it was all just posturing.
That would be the smart decision. The smart decision would have been not to kill Ned's men necessarily, but at the worst, maybe take Ned hostage now that he's no longer Hand of the King. I don't know that Robert would have been cool with that. We'll discuss how Robert will react to this in a minute, but
I think you're seeing that through a Stark lens, though.
Maybe
I think the Stark men dying was nothing to the Lannisters at all, and it won't be very much to Robert either.
Yeah,
but it will hurt Ned.
Absolutely. Yeah. So during this battle, Jory Cassell breaks 3.
We knew he would.
Yes, Jory. But then he turns back into the fight, and Ned looks up and sees it happening, and he shouts, "No, Jory, away!" And
it's a toughie for Jory because, I mean, he heard what everybody else heard. Kill Stark's men, but don't harm Stark.
Yeah.
But as his master of arms, riding away from the battle feels cowardly and...
Yeah, that's exactly. There was no way. I was thinking about that too. I was thinking, oh man, if he had just left, he would be alive. But there was no way that he's the head of the Stark household guard was not.
Oh, that's right. He's not master
his
of
uncle
arms.
is the master at arms.
Yeah, that's right.
He was not going to just ride off like cowardly like and be like, "Whew, man, I'm glad I got out of that one." So
Ned traipses back to the Tower of the Hand. Jory's all showered.
He goes
eating fruit.
He meets up with Littlefinger at the pub.
Yeah. I'm glad you made it, boss. Why you?
Boy, fill me in. What happened? How are Will and Heward?
Look, I would have fought, but they said they were going to kill me, not you.
Since I knew you were safe, I figured. Yeah. So, yeah. And during the skirmish, Ned's horse falls on him and breaks Ned's leg to the point where Ned can see the bones sticking through the skin. So, it's bad stuff.
That's nasty.
Yeah, and poor Jory, as well as Will and Heward, all are killed in this little skirmish here. But Ned passes out, as I mentioned a little bit ago, and then he wakes up and crawls to Jory, and that's where Littlefinger and the Goldcloaks find him. He's cradling Jory's body. They take him back to the Red Keep for treatment.
Yes. And then what do you have to say about Will and what are they called again? Will
and Heward. It's how the audiobook pronounces it, Heward.
Will and Heward and Jory. Let me read your notes here. The first casualties of the Stark Lannister Raid. Okay. So the letter I had to write to Jick and Morrick's mother about their demise on the road to the Vale.
Them. They didn't. Actually,
choose to be there.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, if you remember, Tyrion had two servants / bodyguards, and both of them were killed on the way to the Eyrie.
Yes,
so Lannister blood had already been spilled.
So ultimately, now we're left wondering, how's Robert going to react to all this? I mean, clearly he's going to get back to him, whether Ned goes and talks to him, which you imagine that he will, or someone else.
Might be difficult with a broken leg.
He's not going to run off and tell him. He's obviously going to catch wind that Ned is injured, and I don't care how angry he is. I feel like Robert's going to come visit him in the sick wing of the Red Keep.
Probably true.
So how's Robert going to react? I mean, I think probably by now it's possible Robert's already forgotten what they got into a fight about,
Oh, the resigning his hand to the king part.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah. He just seems like the kind of guy that blows up and then calms down. Yeah.
So you think that this might actually lead to a sort of like a thawing of relationship with Ned? Maybe Ned comes back as Hand of the King again?
Possibly. I hadn't thought it through that far, but that's a possibility.
Definitely possible. All right. You got any background information? I think you wanted to give a eulogy.
I did. So really, it's the only background information, background stuff we've got right now. I wanted to eulogize poor Jory Cassell, so I felt like he needed an obit, so I wrote him an obituary, and it goes a little something like this.
Sorry, I'm not laughing.
Jory Cassell was born around 273 AC in Winterfell, and died of wounds suffered by sword slashes from Lannister men in 298 AC in King's Landing. Jory was the captain of the Stark household guard for more than 8 years. He was the kind of guy who was always around, maybe not in the spotlight and not with flash or flare, but doing what needed to be done without complaint. You might remember him from the Hands Tourney. Septim Ordain thought he looked like a beggar among all the fancy knights, yet he advanced to the 3rd round of the jousting, and then only lost in a decision by the king. He was someone a lord could depend on. He was with Ned and the boys when Ned beheaded Garrett, and they found the wolf pups. It was Jory who found Arya when she ran off after the incident at the Trident with Joffrey, and helped chase Nymeria away by throwing rocks at her. He was even at Ned and Kat's wedding.
Oh.
Being a young man himself, Jory was known to spend time in Winterfell around Robb and Jon and Theon, often sparring in the yard with the boys, or hunting and fishing with them and Ned. Now, Jory was not known for his looks. In fact, Sansa thought Alan more handsome than him, and let's face it, Sansa thinks every man she meets is the most handsome man she's ever met. But he had a wry smile and was quick to show it, especially to little Arya. Toward the end of his life, he spent a lot of time in brothels. On official Stark business, of course. Jory is preceded in death by his father Martin, and we assume his mother, and 3 unnamed brothers. Well, I'm sure someone knew their names, they were just never mentioned.
Yeah. Sure.
He is survived by his uncle Sir Roderick Cassell, who you might recognize.
Hopefully.
Yes. You might recognize.
Last time we saw him, he was alive, but only just.
Right, that's true. You might remember Roderick as Kat's travel companion. And his younger cousin Beth Cassell, the daughter of Sir Roderick, of Winterfell. Rest in peace, Jory Cassell. You've earned it.
Well, that's very moving, McKay. Thank you. I think you've done him proud there.
Oh, well,
so
he shall be missed.
Yeah, I'm wiping away tears. Okay, comparison with the TV show. A couple of interesting differences here. The scene in the brothel is pretty much the same, although, just for simplicity's sake, the brothel is owned by Littlefinger.
Okay, that makes
directly.
sense, yeah.
Only Jory comes inside the brothel with Ned, so he's the only one of the 3 Stark men to go to his rest, having just seen a lady's chest. So
I forgot to mention. I did mention the brothels in my obituary. So.
And I think that's all. We all have to go eventually.
Right.
I think we all want that. The Lannisters are waiting outside the brothel in the TV show.
Okay.
And it's a sunny day, not a rainy night. As I mentioned, it's more sunny in the TV show.
Right.
The conversation between Jaime and Ned is much the same, but Jaime triggers the fight with the words, "Take him alive, kill his men."
Oh.
So he was planning to kidnap him in the TV show. Yeah. Jory dies at Jaime's hand in the TV show. Jaime Lannister kills Jory.
Ooh, okay.
Much as he pushed Bran Stark out of the window.
Right.
Then Jaime Lannister and Eddard Stark fight for quite a while, and pretty seriously. No poking in the chest with a sword, swinging that sword to try and kill each other. The fight ends not when a horse falls on Ned's leg, but when a Lannister man spears Ned in the back of the calf.
Oh, okay.
Jaime punches that guy in the face for his troubles, because he's annoyed that the fight has been stopped. And then Jaime rides off, shouting back, "My brother, Lord Stark, we want him back."
Okay. Wow, that's a very different level of conflict there.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was directly injured, not in a riding accident caused by the fight, but actually by a Lannister person.
I do have vague memories of that scene, now that you mention it.
Yeah. It's quite a famous scene. The episode was called "The Lion and the Wolf."
Okay. I like it.
Pedantry Corner. I want to just quote what Barra's mother said in the brothel. She said, "I've been with no one else. Chataya, the owner of the brothel that you mentioned before, said I could have half a year for the baby." So let me get this straight. This girl lost her virginity to Robert Baratheon, slept with nobody else, had a baby, and now gets half a year off? That's a 15-month break from her normal work for one night. One night of work and 15 months off.
Yeah, I had not thought about that. The rest.
You know what? I honestly, I think that prostitution is a blight, and it's terrible that women are forced into it, and it's awful. It's a terrible thing. But Barra's mum has got it easy.
Yeah, I wonder what the rest of the
easier
prostitutes in the brothel are thinking about her.
It's like, what is this place? Just like, she just comes in, I'm just saying.
I would imagine the king paid handsomely for her services. So maybe Chataya's
for
like
15 months off.
It was a long time. No, I'm with you on that.
So news and notes. We have a few things for news and notes today. So we've had an email from
Ricky,
occasional contributor Ricky.
Yes.
Nice to hear from you, Ricky. Who was asking if some of the battles that have happened and will happen have counterparts in our world. If they have a sort of geographic and historical counterpart. I don't know offhand.
Nor do I.
And we don't want to spoil anything that's to come, but I will certainly look into it as battles begin and see if we can point to parallels to real battles that have happened. So it's an interesting question.
It really is, yeah.
And
very much.
yeah, and Rob from France has been in touch with a couple of comments. One was that he said that if the Lannisters, Jaime and Cersei in particular, knew how badly the Stark children butchered their intelligence, they would have just left Bran alone in the first place, because he's younger than Arya, and what he heard was much more complicated than what
and he didn't
Arya heard.
He didn't even know what he was seeing. He thought they were wrestling.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Should have left them alone.
I think
it's a good point, Rob.
It is.
I'll grant you that one. So the other one, I think I maybe made the comment that Littlefinger was outsmarting Eddard in arranging for a lordship for the assassin of Daenerys Targaryen.
Okay, I remember that.
Because if you remember, Littlefinger was saying that is far more practical use than anything you did, because a bunch of idiots are going to now try and assassinate her. They're going to fail, and the Dothraki will be alerted and keep her protected. He was saying, and I was saying, that's why Ned should stay his hand at the king and listen to these smart people around him, But Rob made the point that Ned is way too honourable for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's way too shifty, way too...
It's definitely a limitation
underhand
of his... definitely a limitation.
It is. But you know what? The sign of true leadership is knowing where your limitations are and making sure that you have underlings who are filling in those gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Surround yourself with people smarter than you. Isn't that what they say? Secret to success?
I've tried.
Not in this podcast. That's what I'm doing.
You are a lot smarter than me in many ways. All right.
Anyway,
conclusion time.
One other thing I wanted to mention real quick in news and notes. This is more of a correction. Do you remember a couple weeks ago I was saying that Odin, the dog that played Summer that passed away due to mouth cancer, we were discussing whether they were real or CGI, and I said I think they were real, and then they became CGI as they grew up. Actually, I looked into it more because I thought, even on that episode, I said, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I think that might be the deal. Really what they did was...
You don't have to say that, McKelly. McKelly, you don't have to say you don't know what you're talking about. It's perfectly clear. Our listeners know.
What actually they did was they recorded the dogs on green screen and then CGI enhanced them to make them look more big and ominous.
How fascinating.
Yeah.
The miracles of modern technology.
Anyway, I just thought I would clear that up since I...
Thanks. That's interesting.
All right.
It's good to do research after the fact.
That's right.
Let's record for posterity what we don't know and then apologize 2 weeks later.
What's the point in researching ahead of time?
We don't know what we need to research until we come and try and talk about it.
All right, so...
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So we found another bastard of Robert Baratheon's, and another one that looks just like him. So, I don't know.
You know what? That's interesting, actually. Just to hold you up on that. If they didn't look like him, you wouldn't really know they were his.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like there's a DNA test. Yeah, but all roads of Jon Arryn's search seem to lead to these space-born children of Robert's.
Yeah. And then Ned...
What can it mean?
Yeah. And Ned references a heavy price that he paid for promises he made to Lyanna. And we'll just have to keep an eye on that. We don't know much more than that yet.
Yeah.
It's just something to...
If anyone's got any theories and doesn't already know the answer, feel free to write them.
Right, yeah.
We'll share. If they're not spoilers, we'll share them.
Exactly. And so Littlefinger has been helping Ned, but can he be trusted? He straight up said no. He gave Ned props for not trusting him in the first time they had major interaction together. Lord Varys says no.
Yeah, but then again, I think Littlefinger would say the same of Varys.
Yes, I agree. And we also know that there's something up with the dagger story. We don't buy it, that it was Tyrion's dagger that was used to attempt to kill Bran. But Littlefinger did go get the gold cloaks. It's debatable how long he took and how many pints of mead he had between leaving and returning. He has done all the heavy lifting in the Jon Arryn murder case, and he says he loves cat. So, not cats.
Yeah, which
cat.
gives him a loyalty to Ned that is slightly tinged with disloyalty. But...
Yeah, so... Yeah, he's still a character we just can't figure out yet. There's not enough info to know yet.
But the Lion and the Wolf are truly at each other's throat. There doesn't seem any way back for this relationship now. The Stark men were murdered.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. All right, let's say goodbye. As always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at @GhostHarrenhall, Facebook, Instagram, and now YouTube.
Yes. And if you wouldn't mind helping us get the word out, leaving a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or at podchaser.com would really, really help us out. We greatly appreciate it.
Many thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.